Alright, I'm going to do a little video for our brother SILVERHORSE347. He wanted to know what the difference was between a swing axle and a IRS. And so I'll give you a little look and show you what the difference is. First we'll start with the axles. Here we have an axle for a IRS. It's got a constant velocity joint, a CV joint, and a boot. And it has an axle, and these joints, you know, they articulate in a lot of different ways, and they give it a lot more motion, I guess, between the two joints. This is the swing axle arrangement. It's a solid axle, much beefier setup, and it's got a splined and threaded side. This is where the drum goes. It's where your castle nut would go. And then you have the spade down at the small end. It goes into the transmission. Now there's spades right on these fulcrums, and they ride on each side, and you know, they give it a round pivoting point, and those fulcrums go down into the side gear. And that axle slides into the side gear, and then your side gear slides down into the diff. You have your spacer, and then you have a snap ring. Frickin' mosquitoes are terrible out here. Oh yeah. Anyway, so that's how the axle goes into the diff. And then the axle goes through these tubes here. This is the tube that mounts to the spring plate, these 3 bolts. And then these are the where it mounts to the transmission. They call these the shells, or the sun shells. You know, they have a little gasket here that you can control how tight these are, and then they have a little plastic shield that rides between here and the cone on the transmission. Then we have the boot, the axle boot. That's what keeps the fluid in the transmission. It goes from that little shell over to the axle, and that's called the axle boot. So it's quite there's a lot more stuff on the swing axle than the IRS. You know, the IRS is more simplified, and you know, the suspension behaves a little better, I guess. For drag racing, we like the swing axle arrangement. And you know, if you're a road race guy or just want a nice driver, the IRS seems to be the way to go. As far as the transmissions, they're very similar. You can take a swing axle and turn it into a IRS. This is the swing axle here. You can see the round cones or hubs there that those axles bolt to, and they swing up and down. That's where they get the name swing axle. And then here's our IRS arrangement with the flanges, where our CV joints bolt to. And there's a stub axle arrangement in the car. I don't know if you can see that. There you go. So that's the difference between an IRS and a swing axle. The last swing axle was in 1968. They did put swing axles in the Mexican Beetles up to, I think, the late 70s, maybe even the late 80s. I'm not really sure. From what I understand, they used the swing axles in the Mexican Beetles. So hopefully that answers all the questions, the difference. If I didn't get something, let me know. I had another guy wanting to know what it took to build a 10-second Volkswagen motor, so let's put one together. We're going to go ahead and assemble the spare motor that I have for the drag car. It's pretty much exactly the same size, cubic inch, a little smaller on the bore. The race car is a 94 and an 82mm crank. This is an 82mm crank, 4130 Chinese steel. You know, it's not the best crank in the world. You could buy a scat crank, would be my preference. You know, if you budget, you know, if you wanted a decent motor that's going to hold up for a while. The flange setup's a really nice way to go. There's some extra machine work involved in that, and bug pack and scat make a couple really nice forged cranks. These imitation forged cranks are much cheaper. You know, they're $250, $260, 300 bucks. Where a good scat crank's probably $600, so half the price. We're going to be using an aluminum case. These go for about $900, $850, depending on, you know, how you get them. This is a bubble top. It'll clear up to a 86 millimeter stroke. It's got a 90.5 millimeter bore, 10 millimeter studs, inserted, solid behind number 3, not welded. It's full flowed, and this is pretty good. A pretty good foundation if you're going to build a turbo motor. If you're going to go aspirated, it's probably better to go with the magnesium case. Magnesium case is probably close to the same as far as price after you have the machine work done, and you know, have it clearance, and you know, all the good stuff that you need to do, full float, and you know, cut for cylinders, clearance for the stroker. You're going to be right up there with what an aluminum case costs. The difference between an aspirated application and a turbo application is the turbo will more than make up for the extra weight. You know, it doesn't really care. In an aspirated situation, you don't really want the extra 25 pounds that this case weighs. But the magnesium cases, you know, are sometimes harder to source than the aluminum case. So you will have to buy all new hardware with this case. All the nuts, bolts, anything that's on this case is junk. So you replace it with a decent hardware kit, and you know, some nylocks on the main studs, and you're off to your races. And then there's some clearancing you need to do and stuff like that, and we'll cover all that stuff step by step. So we got a set of scat rods over here. We got a set of straight cut gears. Those are the billet ones. I don't recommend the cheap timing sets. They do tend to break, and it's never good when the timing gear breaks. We got a 30 millimeter HD pump. We've got a high performance spacer for the crank, and we have some 300 millimeter, I think they're 300s. Yep, 300 millimeter spacers for our barrels, because we're going to run super low compression, being this is even though this motor will probably end up aspirated, it's still going to be very low compression, and this would be the same type motor that you'd put a turbo on and produce another, you know, 150 horsepower. Aspirated, carbureted. This motor will probably make around 150 horsepower, you know, and turbocharged it would make 300. So, but we can use the basic same parts. We've got a high lift cam. This is a cam designed for high lift rockers. It's been polished, and this is the cam we'll be using. It's a Berg grind. These are some Coleman Smith new old stock main bearing set. We got to get some rod bearings for this motor. We need some cam bearings, and we have studs, we have cylinders, and we'll have to build a set of cylinder heads. So I think I got some heads with some big valves in them. We'll valve job them, put some new guides in them, and put some springs on them, and put something together here. So you'll get a good idea of what the stuff costs, you know. You figure the camshaft, cam and lifters are about 140 bucks. I think I got to buy some lifters too. I think I used my lifters, the last set I had. So we'll have to get some of those, and so we need a few things, but you know, we'll get all that stuff accumulated and start throwing the short block together if nothing else. So we'll have to buy a set of lifters too, and we can get those tomorrow when we take the tranny. So there we go. We'll cover the motor. I think I covered the difference between the swingaxle and the IRS, and hopefully that answered your questions there. So till tomorrow, there's another video for you.